I don't need examples. I don't need nothing. I know what I'm doing. So I don't need.
You figured it out 5 kids
Listen,
later.
I know what I'm doing. So I don't need no.
You don't need to comment anything in the comment section.
Come on.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Pastor's Hangover. My name is Melissa, and each week we chat with some pastors at Grace Family Church that may or may not be hungover. So with us today, we have Pastor Al Mayer.
Hello.
I definitely feel that way.
Pastor Chrissy Mayer.
Yes. I did not have my second cup of coffee yet.
And Pastor Daryl Black.
Yes, let's do this.
Listen, this is going to be, we were talking about it before, it's going to be a great episode. We have a couple of questions that were submitted specifically about the message. And then we do this segment sometimes called Pastor's Pop Quiz, right? Where it's just kind of arbitrary questions. And this is going to be Pastor's Pop Quiz spicy version.
Oh
so
my goodness.
we're going to get into it.
Spicy. I'm scared.
So why don't we start? Chrissy, welcome to the show.
Yes. Excited.
Why don't you tell everybody who you are, what you do here, and we'd love to hear from you.
My name's Chrissy. I'm with this guy over here. We go together.
We go together.
I am the couples pastor here at Grace Family Church. And as we talked about this weekend, have 2 kids. So they are my hobbies, 4 and 10. And my other hobby is caffeine.
Love it.
Wow.
Yes.
And you two preached together this weekend.
We did.
Which was really cool to
Yeah,
see.
it was fun.
You guys had an amazing message. It was called Playing the Long Game. So we'll link it in the YouTube version for everybody to go back and watch the message, because just to see you guys together, right, married 18 years, preaching together, like what a powerful thing.
It's fun to preach together. It's not fun to come up with a message together.
Yeah. We definitely have fun doing it.
what does
but
that look
our
like, guys?
preparation process.
I would just like
is
to
very
say this.
different.
Like last Monday, I was in trouble for nothing. You guys can
nothing.
understand. For nothing, because
Okay.
you woke up and you're like, I'm mad at you. You're like, I'm like, why? She goes, I had a dream. And it was, she had a dream that we weren't prepared. We got up on stage and we didn't have, like, the notes were
Our
all out of
notes didn't
crowd.
make sense.
Didn't make sense. And then we just started singing.
We did. And we didn't
And-
even know the words to the song. So we're
And
just
so-
like,
No.
She had that embarrassment waking up, and she said it was my fault. So it was a great week to start off. It was
Wow.
the enemy is real. But yeah, we have very different ideas of how we how we put messages together
yeah.
is different from how we teach from them, and how much prep we need and what needs to be focused on. And
But the Lord made a
yeah,
way.
He does every time. It's fun to teach the message together. It's the
Right.
other side that takes all the time.
Yeah.
I think it was a powerful message. The only complaint we got was that Chrissy doesn't like The Office. She shared. And some people
Oh yeah.
I
We're
think
upset
I'm
about
waiting
that.
for the hate mail for that still.
Oh,
You
it's
did.
coming.
You liked it the first run through. And then
Yes.
after that,
Right.
not
the
this
fact,
The
month.
first
the fact that he
time-
continually watches
Right.
it over and over
Right.
again.
Well, it's not like I always. It's one of the. I watch shows that I already know, like, right before bed, because I don't want to think. I
Yes.
just want to laugh,
You know the
Yeah.
plot.
and I know it's not
Mm.
a surprise.
Yeah.
And so she loves watching, like, intense shows,
Cop
like
shows.
cop CSI type stuff. And I'm like, my brain's working. And especially if it's not one of those shows that, like, ends on that episode, then I'm just thinking about what happens next. I can't go to sleep. And so she's.
Are you the same?
No, look, when I don't want to think about something, I'll put on like NCIS,
Mm.
See?
and I'll start in the middle season,
We
like
tried NCIS.
See-
Yeah, but NCIS.
season 7,
They-
episode 3. And my daughter come in and is like, have you watched all of these? No, I don't even
You don't
care
care.
about what's going
Okay.
on. I'm not thinking.
But NCIS, each episode closes.
It does.
And so
Yeah.
that's the difference.
Yes, that
Like, it
does help.
closes. I'm talking about, like, the other stuff that's like it's a season-long murder mystery. or
And there's
something
always
that.
like suspense at the
Yes.
end. Then
Yeah.
you're like, we have to watch the next one. And then
Yeah.
5 episodes, 5 hours later, it's 2:00 in the morning.
I like the wait. Tracy wants to watch all of them
Binge.
together. She's like, I can't, what's going to happen? I need to know. I was like,
Yes.
we own this TV.
No. You have to keep
Like
going.
it'll be here tomorrow. Just
Okay.
think-
Well, I think you and Hal can watch TV together then, and me and Tracy will watch together.
Good.
That's not something I'm looking
Perfect.
for in my late nights.
Good, good. We'll
I
You
just-
love Daryl,
me-
but
we'll
Invite
just sit
Daryl
on the
over on a
couch
Monday
together and
night.
be like,
we can just call each other. Hey, what's up,
Romantic.
man?
yeah,
What you watching?
sounds very romantic.
TV buddies.
You guys are
This
hilarious.
is getting weird.
Yeah.
All right, we'll dive in. And Hal and Chrissy covered a ton in the message with playing the long game. What does that look like with your family, longevity, and just as a family unit? you talked about 1, commit to a lifestyle of grace and forgiveness. 2, choose relationships for growth. And 3, champion calling, right? Your kids' calling and invite them into yours.
Mhm.
And we got a question on number 1. It says, I'm struggling to live a lifestyle of grace and forgiveness, like you talked about. I want to forgive, but I don't want these people in my life anymore. Is that okay?
That's a good question.
It depends on who these people are.
Right. Like
if,
you
if these people are your husband and kids,
yeah.
then
You can't make him
no.
go away.
You can't make that decision.
You got to live on the
And-
struggle bus.
Right. And the reason we say that is we've been caught by questions before. Oh, okay. So you're saying I can leave my no, what? No.
Right.
No.
We thought
Yeah.
you meant like a friend or something.
Yeah.
So I mean, it depends on the situation and who we're talking about.
Yeah.
And I mean, we talked about this a little bit last week with the toxic relationships and stuff like
Mhm.
that. How you can forgive but not include them back. Like forgiveness is not admission back into my life. But if this is your husband, wife, kids, then that's not the choice that you have to make. You
Yeah.
get to make in that moment. It's forgiveness and moving on. Yeah.
Mhm.
And you will always battle and struggle with forgiveness, especially depending on how close that relationship is,
Yeah.
because you feel like, man, those people should know me best.
Mhm.
So it's hardest to forgive the people that you are closest to,
Yeah.
which is why you have to do it every day. Forgiveness isn't a one-time thing; it's an everyday event. And so, which is why Jesus says you got to seven times 70. You got to do it over and over again until it's a habit. And forgiveness does not mean restoration.
Yeah.
It means reconciliation,
Mhm.
but it does not mean restoration. So I can forgive you and be wise enough to go, hey, our relationship doesn't work.
Right.
Mhm.
And so I've got to put up boundaries. I got to put up gates to make sure I protect myself and protect you, because we don't work well together. So if someone is stealing from you and they got a problem with stealing, I forgive you for stealing. But I'm not going to leave no more money on the table when you're
Right.
around.
Right.
I can't, because I can't trust you. So forgiveness doesn't mean I trust you all over again, that the relationship is what it used to be. It means that I'm not going to allow that to be toxic. I'm not going to grow bitter. I'm not going to allow it to be toxic. I'm going to forgive off the top. And so, and it's not easy. And I usually say the phrase I learned years ago: the person who's unwilling to forgive has forgotten what they've been forgiven of.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I let that be my standard for anybody that offends me. It's like, I forgive fast. I
Yeah.
forgive easy. If Tracy was sitting here now, when she comes to me and if we've had some kind of infraction in our relationship, she'll go, "Do you forgive me?" And I say, "I forgave you when you did it.
Mhm.
I already forgave you. My issue is not forgiveness. I'm fast on forgiveness,
Mhm.
but we got to work on the relationship."
Mhm.
Yeah.
So
That's good.
Yeah. And Chrissy, I'd love to hear your perspective. The follow-up question to that was, what if it was a parent
Mm.
when that parent is toxic and that's all I've ever known and all I've ever seen?
Mm.
Good.
It's hard. I feel like you can easily, sit here and think of all the different situations, right? And what's right or what's wrong. And that's the thing. I don't think there's a whole lot of right and wrong. I think that relationships are messy. I do think that we do, forgive fast. Give ourselves grace, knowing that forgiveness is a process. It is a journey. And like he said, it is an over and over, time again a thing, but then also trying to figure out what are the boundaries going to be moving forward, and realizing that a lot of times when you set up boundaries, that the people on the receiving end of those boundaries, you're probably going to have pushback. There probably is going to be some defensive, but
Mhm.
having other people in your circle, in your corner too, that can stand by you and be like, yes, boundaries are a good thing. That's okay to set.
Yeah.
And then giving yourself maybe even a time period to come back and reassess, be like 6 months from now or a year from now, we
Mhm.
can kind of reassess. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Mm,
Yeah.
That's really good.
Because sometimes that boundary forces them to realize there's something wrong,
Mhm.
and sometimes they just
Yeah.
don't. And so you want to give the opportunity to see
Right.
if they've learned from it or
Right.
not.
It's kind of
Yeah.
like putting the ball back in their court,
Mhm.
Yeah.
while still maintaining some safety at the same time.
Yeah.
And then allowing God and saying, God, I'm doing my part, I'm showing up, but then, you're going to have to work on their side too. And I'm trusting you. I'm making myself available to whatever you want to do in this relationship. If you do want to bring reconciliation, if you do want to bring further restoration, I'm available for that. And then just being in tune with him and being like, all right, we'll just take this one day at a time and reassess later.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's powerful. I think it was in the Boundaries book that you had recommended that talked about boundaries are gates, they're not walls, right?
Mhm.
Where you have a gate that you can let people in and out at
Yeah.
your choice, at your comfortability
Mhm.
level, in your walk with God. You can open and close that gate
Mhm.
where he leads you to.
Mhm.
So that's powerful.
Yeah, that's good.
And if you saw the message this weekend, you guys are picking up each other's sentences. You guys are finishing where the other one left off, like smooth like butter. Like you guys are just fantastic. So the question was, how do you communicate without having an argument? And
That's a
I
good
mean, this
follow-up.
weekend you looked like
Y'all
expert
did great,
communicators. You looked like
Well,
expert
see that
one,
communicators.
guys?
So
How
I'm
do you-
excited
All
to
right.
hear what you have to say.
So, but we also shared how we missed it. So maybe they missed
Yeah.
that part. I'll just say this, and I think you got a story to this too. But when we went to premarital counseling, she looked at our personality profiles. We're both D's. We're both
Firstborn.
drivers, firstborn,
Hmm.
dominant personalities, all that kind of stuff. She looked at us. She said, "If you don't have God, this will never work." And we're like,
Wow.
We're like, we
Thanks.
paid you for that?
"Yeah." That was literally like 15 minutes in. We're like, "Okay,
Cool.
cool." But it's true. And so, how do you have a conversation without arguing? It's both of you at the beginning of it going, this is not you. And okay, a couple things. It's not at the end of the day when everybody's tired. It's
Yeah.
not when people are hungry.
Mhm.
Guys, that would solve so many
Wait,
arguments.
you mean you don't want to have a conversation right before bed?
Oh, man.
Because
there
that's
was
when
a-
my mind
that
slows
was,
for
there
the
was
first
a
time.
length of time in our relationship where I am literally dozing off and she's like, "Hey, are you awake?" And I'm like, no.
Because for the moms out there, that is when our brain starts slowing down, starts
Yeah.
clearing from all the tasks and
Yeah.
everything that we have to do during the day. And then so you're like, all right, I have some clarity, need to kind of reattack some things here. And we bring it up. And yeah, it's
Yeah.
never good.
If you can find the time, it's hard when it just happens in the moment. It's a lot harder to have the right view right away. But if you have the ability to bring it up at the right time and not in an attacking way, much more likely for it not to go that way.
Yeah.
But when it just happens in the moment because we're both unhappy, and it's funny, she's just getting mad at the kids, but then I get mad at the kids, but I'm getting mad at the kids in the wrong way and all that
And
kind of
then
stuff.
I'm mad that you're getting mad at the kids.
Yeah. And then it just kind of builds, and really we're all just hungry and tired. And those are really hard. And then you got to come back and go, but we tend to not argue for long periods of time.
Mhm.
We are just
And it's
boom,
usually
and then we come
stupid
back and go,
stuff.
that was dumb. But yeah, it's time, hunger level, and just what's happened in the day, because we just don't have that ability anyway.
Yeah.
we don't.
Mm. You got
You,
something to
Daryl,
say to
I
that?
know you
Yeah,
got
you
a lot
were
of stuff.
snickering over
Listen,
here.
No,
Okay.
listen, Tracy and I argue all the time. No, we've learned that HALT is what
Mhm.
I think is hungry, angry, lonely, tired.
That's good.
You never argue in those moments.
Okay.
And if it's getting out of hand, you can ask that question. Which one are you? Hungry, angry, lonely, tired? Are you if you're hungry, let's get you a Snicker. If you're angry, now is not the time.
Mhm.
If you're lonely, it means we haven't spent enough time together.
You need the 6-second kiss.
Yeah, you need
Yeah.
that 6 or that 20-second hug. And if you're tired, go to sleep.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Go, there people have misinterpreted this scripture that says,
Yes.
"Don't let the sun go down
Yes.
Yeah.
on your right." They misinterpret that scripture and they've said, "Oh, we never go to bed angry."
Yeah.
Listen, sometimes going to bed angry is the best thing you can
Right.
do.
Mhm.
Go to bed angry, go to sleep, and
So
wake up
good.
with a fresh mind and go, "Okay,
Right.
now let me deal with this." Now, do I think you should go to bed ready to stab each other? No.
Yeah.
But you should also go to bed and have a clear expectation. Hey, I'm upset. I'm frustrated. I can't talk about this right now. We are in the red zone.
Yeah.
Can we talk about this in the morning?
Yeah.
That's smart and clear.
Yeah.
But if you're going to bed slamming doors, you're just going to wake up angry anyway. But be clear and concise. But I tell all couples, you're going to argue.
Right.
People are like, how do you have a relationship without arguing? You're going to argue because you're two different people with two different perspectives, and you're always trying to get that person to see your perspective.
Yep.
So there's going to be argument, but you've got to argue fair.
Mhm.
We don't insult each other.
Right.
We don't say words that the other person doesn't like. And we don't assume that we're always right.
Yeah. Be curious.
Yeah.
Mhm.
When you said that, what did you mean?
Yeah.
Because here's what I heard.
Mhm.
Clarify that for me. And come up with the rules of arguing when you're not arguing.
Yeah.
Right.
It's the best thing that you could ever do. People try to fix the argument in the argument, and you
Mhm.
usually end up arguing about the argument,
Mhm.
Mhm.
about how you're arguing with it. Why you
Mhm.
talking to me like that? Why are you raising your voice? Why are you standing up?
Yeah.
You're so aggressive. And you spend 15 minutes not even in the discussion that you need to be in. So before you get into those moments, sit down and go, hey, I'm like this. And you're like that.
Mhm.
So knowing your kind of your psychological profile helps. But if you don't know, you spend enough time around each other to go, hey, every time I say this, you go to 100.
Yeah.
So let's deal with this over pancakes. And when we have a happy moment, so we can
Mhm.
figure out when we get to those moments, here's the stuff we're going to do. And Tracy and I we've learned when we went to counseling, had an incredible counselor about 20 years ago who gave us some techniques that we still use to this day. So you got to find those things, and some things we made up on our own is
Mhm.
go, this is what works for us. And so when we get into these heightened moments, we made an agreement that we have to do the stuff that we said while we were eating pancakes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if we don't do it, you're saying, I don't honor the relationship.
Mhm.
If I'm not willing to do the stuff that I agreed to do, I don't love you enough, and I don't honor the covenant enough to just do the stuff. It's hard.
Mhm.
It sucks. I don't want to do it because I want to be right.
Yes.
And I
Yeah.
want to finish my point. And you need to hear this before you go to bed because I'm right. And I've had those moments. One of the things that we do is we say to the floor, and we lay down on the floor.
Mhm.
Well, whoever says it, and it could be in the middle of a heightened argument. If one person says to the floor, you have to stop talking. You can't say, yeah, let me finish it. Nope. We agreed. If someone says to the floor, we got to stop talking.
How many times per week do you do that?
When we first started doing it, it was happening all the time. It was embarrassing. We did it one time in Target.
I've heard that is pretty wild.
Oh
We
my
didn't talk, and it
gosh.
was like to the floor. It's like, I'm not getting on the floor.
Who
And we
called that
got on
one?
the floor.
That's a big deal in Target.
I called it.
Wow.
Because Walmart, they would be like, "Oh."
Yeah.
The Target, though, they're like, "What's going on?"
True.
I don't know if we could have done it in Walmart. The floors are cleaner in Target. But we got on the floor in the middle of the Target, and people are walking by, and we're just going, and we had an opportunity to go, see, this is stupid.
Mhm.
Our argument was stupid. And when you get down on that level, you really realize how dumb some of the arguments
Yeah.
are, and you get to focus. We're staring right into each other's eyes. Like, I love you, and this is silly. I want to get off the floor. Can we resolve this on our feet? Yes, and then you do it. And so we were doing it all the time, and I'm probably over the last 10 years, we might have done it 5 times
Mm.
in 10 years because you just know, and you build all the other skills. Did you go, well, I don't have
Sure.
to do that. Our arguments don't get that heightened. So
And how
Yeah.
long have you guys been married?
we've been married for 28 years.
Wow. So I also want to encourage people, do not compare your marriage to their marriage. Like, do not compare, especially if you just got married, right? Your
Yeah.
chapter 1 to their
Yeah.
chapter 18 and their chapter 28. I think that was something I did a lot in the
Yeah.
beginning when
Mhm.
I first got married. And I was like, look at how well they preach together and speak together. And my husband's like, we've
Yep.
been married 16
Yep,
seconds.
but that
Melissa."
doesn't
Right.
mean everything. Like, and also understand we all still have the same arguments
Right.
too.
Yeah, you're only
Like,
seeing such a small
Yeah.
piece
You're seeing a
of
small
what they
part.
share.
Yeah.
True.
Mhm.
I mean, we didn't want to argue on stage. That probably wouldn't have gone well.
They saved it for the green room.
We do. We save it for our premarital things that we do,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
we argue then. But yeah,
But you know what? The comparison is a thief, right?
Right.
So just take the skills and the tips and the
Mhm.
acronyms and apply them, but you
Yeah.
don't have to compare because you have no clue what's happening
Right.
behind closed
Mhm.
doors. And so, in your guys' experience, is the 7-year itch real?
Mm.
I believe statistics show it. Yeah,
Really?
I mean, it was one of our bad years. I mean, at year 5 on for 5 to 8.
I think in clarifying the 7-year itch, because that's probably relative to whoever is asking, is I know we've talked a lot about even biologically what goes on after you're together for so long, right? And like there's like the 7 months and 7 years, but what happens after you kind of get past that honeymoon period, right? And someone's true self starts coming out, and maybe all the stuff that they haven't ever dealt with or need to go to counseling for, all of that stuff, marriage is going to kind of, magnify.
Yep.
It's not going to minimize, right? It's not, a lot of people think, oh, getting married's the start. And it's like, no, that's actually like when everything kind of like you're able to start dealing with some stuff because pressure, right? Of 2 people coming together and who are selfish, and it's going to magnify issues. And so I think just clarifying that's what that means to me, at least that 7-year itch is when it's like, all right, we're not pretending anymore. We're not playing anymore. And this is who I am.
Yep.
Take it or leave it. And then,
Yeah, I
we'll
think
go
that's when
from
you
there.
realize, oh, wait, they're not going to change for me. Or they're not just going to change 7 years in. Because 2 years is too, because I think that's the moment where they go, everything settles down. They're like, oh, you're crazy, or whatever it may be. Because a lot
Wait,
of
is
people
that
get
what you
married.
Is that
thought?
what you thought, Hal?
2 years, but 2 years in for a lot of people that
Yeah.
don't really know each other.
Yeah.
And especially if you're not dating God's way, it's about 2 years in when everything settles down. You go, oh crap, who is this person?
Yeah.
Sure.
And this is not what I thought it was, and all that. And then 7 years is they're not changing.
Yeah.
But
And what are you going to do?
yeah, you see it a lot. I think statistically you see it a lot,
Mm.
and so that they say that. But I think that's what's happening is people are going. Of course, I mean, there's across the board. There's those things. There is even now it's the retirement that you're seeing a lot of it. There's the empty nesters that you're seeing
Yeah.
a lot of it. And it's all those moments where you're looking at that person, you're going, I'm about to go into a new phase of life. Do I really want to spend it with you, or do I know you?
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
no. Yeah.
Cool.
It's real, but it's not a reason. Like, you don't go, okay, it's 7 years. It's not that it has to
Right.
happen at that point, but
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, let's transition.
Mm.
We're going to jump over to the pastor's pop quiz.
My goodness.
And then hit me with a jingle. And
I don't think I remember ever having a jingle. Have we put
There
jingles
is
Is
a
there
in?
going to be a
jingle,
jingle? There's a
yeah.
jingle?
That's
there a
great.
I
jingle?
have a
Remember?
jingle.
That's
Oh,
great.
okay.
That's great.
Okay. That's not the jingle.
Okay, I
No.
was like, is that the?
Pastor's
We
pop
gotta
quiz.
spend more
Ready?
money.
This is so fun. Okay. The question is, do you fast forward nudity and sex scenes when you're watching TV or movies? Do you fast forward nudity and sex scenes together? And what do you do when you're alone?
So there is a difference.
And he asked this question 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
So I
Okay.
really wanted to bring it up today because
All right.
I think this is something
I
that
appreciate
people wanna
someone
know.
who kept asking the question.
I'll
Yeah.
share where we're at. We don't watch stuff with nudity in it,
Yeah.
which really sucks because
Everything.
everything now. It's like
75, 80%.
So-
yeah.
I'll use like IMDb and stuff like that just to look to see what's in there
Mm.
because I felt like for a while every show that we would watch, either Amazon or somebody put out, we're like, what
Or
the
they don't
crap?
or that way. But
Yeah.
then after like season
Right.
2 or
And
3,
so-
you're like, what in the
Mhm.
world?
I do know there is a couple websites you can use that you can run it through it
Yeah.
and it will actually take all of it out of it. I know people
Right.
that watch it that way.
Yeah.
Like you can literally say all nudity taken out, all language and stuff like that taken out. I think they do it for like $1 episode or something like that. But
We have that. You there's
can
a
do that, yeah.
box you can buy that
Mhm.
we have hooked to our TV, so you can all these parameters you can go through, and it takes all the stuff
Yeah.
out.
Oh, that's cool.
and
Yeah,
so
I've done
that helps a good bit. But yeah, especially and it is interesting when you hear people talk about shows that you're like I know there's a lot of stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But for us, yeah, we decided to stay away from it.
Mhm.
I think we tried the fast forward thing like earlier on in marriage. And we're like,
Yeah.
yeah, this is not a good idea for us.
yeah.
By the time you know to fast forward, you've already seen it.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
It is
Right.
a
Oh,
struggle.
yep.
Because like you said, I mean, most of what is being put out there and that
Mhm.
everyone is
Yeah.
into and talking about regularly does have that in that. But we just made a really strong commitment that we are definitely going to safeguard our marriage when it comes to that. I
Yeah.
mean, I know for men and women, that that's a struggle, not
Right.
just men when it comes to porn, but women also. And so really guarding your heart on
Mhm.
what you're watching and realizing that it can be a slippery slope. And
Yeah.
so we are just very, on the front end with those kind
Well,
of things.
and just doing a lot of research into pornography and stuff like that. the reason guys go back in is not it's not rarely is it just they go from zero to
Right.
back into pornography. It's something triggers it,
Right.
whether it be social media or seeing something on TV or whatever. And so you just want to stay as far away from getting that extra, like it triggers it in your brain. You're like, oh, that's something I want more of.
Mm.
And so,
Right. We just
but yeah.
don't want an open door because we
Right.
know, especially when it comes to marriage, like the enemy is just waiting to steal,
Yes.
kill, and destroy. And he wants to
Yeah.
take any and every opportunity. So being able to look at your relationship, not just with like what you're watching, but even what you're listening to. Like when I like to go to the gym and bang it out on the weights, like I like to listen to like hardcore rap. And then after realizing that, hey,
Mhm.
these words are not
Oh, man.
great. And it makes you think back to like your pre-Jesus days and all that. And all of a sudden you're in this mode, right? Like working out by yourself, having thoughts and thinking about stuff that you didn't want to.
Yeah.
Like you
Mhm.
didn't start out that way. And so I think when it comes to your marriage and protecting that, it's sitting down and having a real conversation with yourself first, but also with your spouse and saying, what are those little open doors
Mhm.
that we've allowed that maybe we need to completely shut the door?
Mm.
Yep.
It's good.
Yeah, and if you're not willing to watch it with your spouse, you probably shouldn't be watching it
Yeah.
alone.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Agree.
you definitely shouldn't
Yeah.
be doing it by
Agree.
yourself. Uh,
Yeah.
Anything.
you shouldn't be doing anything by yourself.
Yeah.
Better
Well,
together.
Yeah, when me and Tracy first got married, it was probably one of the conversations we had not had,
Mm.
and so we would watch stuff that had sex scenes or nude scenes. And it wasn't anything crazy, but enough of it.
Sure.
We were both uncomfortable, but wasn't saying anything.
Right.
Because we're like, well, I'm sitting there going, well, she's not saying anything. I
Right.
guess she likes it, so I go,
It's good.
guess I'll watch it. And it was probably like 2 years in to a point where I was going, I don't want to see people do it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even want to. And she's like, I don't either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, why have you never said
Right.
anything? She's like, you never. I thought you liked it. No, I don't want.
Well, in that situation, then would you tell men you need to lead up?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I would absolutely tell men, yo, you got no. I don't need tips, tricks. I don't need examples. I don't need nothing. I know what I'm doing. So I don't need.
You figured it out 5 kids
Listen,
later.
I know what I'm doing. So I don't need no.
You don't need to comment anything in the comment section.
Come on. So it's
This
like,
is the spicy.
and God
question.
knows what He's doing.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
He doesn't need an aid.
Yeah.
We got each other. So we know how to work this thing out.
Yeah.
So yeah. So and then when you got kids in the house,
hmm
Yeah.
you're going, I don't want to raise my boys that this is normal.
Right.
And then we had girls. It's like I don't want to raise my girl. I don't want anybody walking into a room and they're like, Dad, what's that? Mom,
Mhm.
what's
Yeah.
that?
Mhm.
No, we don't do it.
Mhm.
And it's been cool.
And they
So-
will, back in, I just said, and they will find the tapes. I'm like, wait, no. Nobody uses
No,
tapes
it's-
anymore. What
No.
are the tapes? Because
No.
I remember the first time I saw something was a kid stole the VHS that his parents had of some movie that we shouldn't have watched.
Yeah.
And it was
Mm.
like they had no idea that we saw it, but they found why he was finding it.
And I-
Nowadays it's
yeah.
just computer, but yeah.
Yeah.
And when you establish the right stuff in your house, your kids will pick up on that because we
I'm sorry, you just said your pigs.
I know it was like
That's
where
good.
was
He
that
was
going?
trying to move past it, Chrissy.
Your kids will pick up on that because we were at the point where we wouldn't watch shows.
Yeah.
We didn't have cable,
Yeah.
all that kind
Right.
of stuff. And it was my daughter who found the little
Mm.
thing that was like, hey, Dad, you can put this on there and this gets rid of all of that stuff.
Wow.
And so they understood, hey, we don't do this,
Mhm.
but if there's something we want to watch and it might have a certain type of violence in it or cussing in it, and we don't want to have anything to do with that in our house,
Right.
hey, here's something that you don't even have to look at what that stuff is. It sets the gate for you. Great.
Right.
Mhm.
And I think
So-
even as your kids get older too, like if you are already modeling from that place, then you have the authority to be able to say, hey, like this is something that our family just does different.
Mhm.
Like you're going to start noticing the older that you get when you hang out with friends and go over to people's houses that people do things differently,
Yeah.
you know,
Yep.
but as Christ followers and people that are trying to pursue God's best for our family, this is a family thing. Like this isn't just an expectation that we're saying, oh, like you need to guard your heart. Like mommy and daddy do this too. And so I
Yeah.
think that just gives you more of an authority to be able to have that conversation with
And I'll
your
just
kids, too.
add this because you may not know, every streaming site has stuff on it. Every
Mhm.
single one. So if you're not
Yeah.
putting parental controls and stuff like that in there, your kids will find it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They will.
So what about social media? What are kind of safeguards that you guys put in place? I mean, just as someone
We have each other's
Yeah.
passwords, and we
Cool.
have the ability to get on each other's phone at any moment. And
Yep.
I had actually not posted in 6 years until Frank Rich asked me to collab on something. I had no idea. It was funny this past week. Like somebody's like, "You posted," and I'm like, "I did." I thought I was just
funny.
like allowing him to tag me, and so apparently I posted. So, but
Yeah.
yeah, we have that ability to see each other's and all that kind of stuff. And then there's certain social media things I just don't use,
yeah.
and so
Yeah.
Access. Your spouse has to have full access to your stuff.
Mhm.
Early on, I thought that was really intrusive.
mhm.
He was like, I don't want to give you my password to anything. And then wisdom set in,
Right.
and a good mentor who slapped me on the forehead. It was like, bro, what are you hiding?
Mhm.
I'm not hiding anything. I don't like it.
Right.
Get over it,
Mm-hmm.
because this is accountability. This
Yep.
is protection. And then you're like, oh, okay. And we have the same thing for our children. I have access to all their phones.
Right.
So I can monitor what they do, watch what they do. We have keywords that you put in there to make sure if these
Yep.
words pop up, I get an alert.
Mm.
Prime or Tracy gets an alert. So even the time, how long they can be on the phone. At least our
Mhm.
youngest started at this point. It's like, no, your phone shuts off at 10 o'clock. Because who you talking to?
Mhm.
Nobody. So everybody you need to talk to at 10 o'clock is in the house.
Mm-hmm.
So we have all those parameters because you want to be a great gatekeeper.
Yeah.
So because the world is not for you.
Nope.
Yeah. Yep.
They don't want you to win.
Nope.
So
Agree. And I think it's exactly what you were talking about, Chrissy. Like all of these access points, just being on the same page with your spouse and being on guard.
Yeah.
You know that, hey, just because it looks different, we turned off TV, but we each scroll in bed for 90 minutes before we fall asleep. Okay, that's another
mhm.
access point. So just
Right.
be aware of it.
Yeah.
And put those boundaries in place and put the
Yeah.
shared logins and stuff like that in place.
Yeah.
All right. The next question we got is, my boyfriend is Jewish and doesn't believe in Jesus. What do I do?
What do we do with that, Chrissy?
I would say, I know it sounds.
Did she date someone who was Jewish?
No, I don't.
Oh.
I don't know why.
Your head
I don't
just
know why I
turned to
turned so
her
aggressively. I
fast.
just
You did.
it was.
Oh, I guess the girl is asking it.
I think
Oh.
what's fun is
A
both me
woman
and
is
Daryl
asking.
really want to answer, but we're gonna let Chrissy answer first.
Yeah.
I'll. You guys can answer.
We'll
I know
answer
you're
too.
Just waiting. I feel your presence. But the first thing that I would say is truly was boyfriend.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm going to answer. Their answer is maybe you don't need to be dating this person then, which I know you guys wanted to drop that bomb, so I dropped it for you. But from the front end, if you are not married, one, you don't have to operate in a way that married people do. And what I
Yes.
mean by that is that we don't need to go to couples counseling when we're not married. And we don't need to fight for a relationship if we're not married. If there are significant things where
Yeah.
you are not seeing eye to eye when it comes to playing, the long run and all of that, that if you don't from the get-go have that thing in common, that is going to be the single common denominator you need for every other decision you're going to make for the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
You're coming from two different life perspectives
Yep.
and how you're going to move forward when it comes to money, when it comes to maybe even social media, parenting. Your whole life lens comes from your faith and your values and what you believe. So yeah, I would
Especially with
have
the
that
kids.
hard conversation.
Yeah, the number one, this was, I think, 2023 or 2022 when I looked it up. The number one demographic for divorce was people of different faiths
Wow.
across the board. And there's a reason for that, is because at some point you've got to lean back on something.
Mm.
And here's the hard part in this is it's not that they're a bad person. It's not that they're awful and they should they're not dateable. It's just you cannot date somebody with a different faith system. It just doesn't work. Now, can you give them the opportunity to? But here's the hard part in it. When you're already dating, and I'm just going to say this, if you're already in a sexual relationship and then you need to go to church with me, a lot of guys will go, okay.
Mhm.
That doesn't mean he loves Jesus.
Yeah.
That means he wants you.
Right.
And so we've got to be very careful in these scenarios of this. And people always talk about Pastor Craig and Debbie, like before anything happened, like any kissing, any actual dates, he was at church. Like
Mhm.
he was at church for a long time before any of that that happened. And so it's a different, and I love the part, they don't share it that often. I think Craig doesn't like it, but Debbie broke up with him and he still followed after God.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I think that was what even brought her back to him. So the thing is, you want to see that they have a relationship with God outside of you.
Right.
I've seen a lot of people fake it till they get married,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and then once you're married, it's like, okay, that's
Yeah.
where
Right.
that's where you're at.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's and this is hard because he's gonna think you're an awful person. He'll call you a mean Christian,
You're
and why don't
judging
you be more like
me.
Jesus? Well, that's what Jesus would say. So,
Yeah.
and not be unequally yoked in this. And so it's not an easy answer, but it's also, hey, going forward dating, let's pick people when we start dating with the same belief systems,
Mhm.
because it's a bigger deal than you realize at this moment.
Yeah.
I promise you that.
Yeah.
Hmm.
That's it. There's
Yeah,
a lot.
awesome.
There's a lot of great people out there that are not
Right.
believers,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and I think we forget that 10% of your life is physical. 90% of your life is spiritual.
Mhm.
So why would you align yourself with someone who's not going the same spiritual direction as you?
Mhm.
And we forget that.
Yeah.
So if 90% of what I do is focus on God, and we're not seeing God in the same vein, like she said, it's going to affect everything else we do.
Hmm.
Everything else we do.
Mhm.
He can be nice. He can be good guy. He can be all those things.
Love his
and
mama.
He treats me well.
Mhm.
Takes me out. He pulls out my chairs. He opens the door. He's
Yeah.
chivalrous. He's all those things. But man, he's not following after Jesus.
Right.
Right.
Mhm.
And that's 90% of your whole life.
Mhm.
So why would you put yourself at that? So I would tell that person, break up, get
Yeah.
out. Will it hurt? Yeah, because you're probably already involved. Will it hurt? Yep, because we don't get into relationships really thinking about our spirituality.
Mhm.
We get into relationships thinking about our compatibility and our physicality.
Because
Right.
here's the deal, marriage is hard. And so when it comes to staying together, you need to know that he has a group of friends that are around him that want you guys to work. And so what better place to find that than the church?
Yeah.
You need a group of friends around you that want it to work.
Mhm.
And then you need a relationship with God for it to work. I mean,
Yeah.
God literally says marriage is so hard that if you don't have me in your life, it's not going to work.
Yeah,
Mhm.
And so and I understand he's Jewish, but it's not the same thing.
yeah,
And so, and you guys are going to have to, I mean, raising kids, massive, big, like a huge deal.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, you got to break up.
And for whoever that person is, let's not use this. I've heard the argument where, well, I've seen it work before.
Right.
Oh, gosh.
I've seen it work before.
Sorry.
One, you've seen from the outside. Two,
Yeah.
it doesn't work long term. It doesn't work, even though you've seen it work. It causes more drama and
Yes.
tension than ever. Marriage already comes with problems.
Yep.
And then you're bringing another element that the marriage doesn't need, that the relationship doesn't need. So if Jesus himself says it doesn't work, then why would you try it?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And go, no, I hear you, Jesus, but I know better than Jesus. That's
Mhm.
literally what we're saying.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you smarter than Jesus, keep doing your thing.
Yeah.
But if you want to obey him, then step out and go, I would rather be right than be satisfied. Ooh.
It's,
Ooh.
well, it's the, you
Ooh.
always hear it. The
Satisfied.
stats are literally, if you live with one another before you get married, your chance of divorce is over 80%. And people are like, but I know somebody. It's still 80%. I don't
Yes.
care who you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's over 80%. Like
Yeah.
it's like if you're playing Russian roulette with 8 bullets in a 10 chamber, nobody's taking that chance.
No.
But anyway,
So-
sorry.
Yeah, I would just say to trust the heart of God on this.
Mhm.
And I know it can be scary, especially if he is still a good person.
Mhm.
And thinking that, well, maybe God just has less for me. But I would say just to trust that God knows what he's talking about. Trust the heart of God,
Yep.
that he is good and that his plans are good and that he does have more for you,
Mhm.
not less. And so just know that on the other side of obedience is blessing.
It's
All
good.
right. That was a kicker.
Amazing. That was an awesome way to end it. Thank you for being here with us, Chrissy,
Yes, it was fun.
for what may have possibly been the spiciest episode
Ooh,
Was
of the
it?
spicy.
Pastor's Hangover.
right.
For sure. I mean, a little more spicy than when Pastor Craig's here. For sure. For sure.
Oh, I'm going to
So
tell him you
thank
said that.
you guys. Nope. Thank you.
Greg's
guys
like,
for-
fine, I'm going to say some stuff next
Right,
time.
Gosh.
right.
Thank you all for being here. And thank you guys for joining us for another episode of the Pastor's Hangover. We will see you next week.